Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to another edition of Wednesday Night Live for the Contrast Project Lounge podcast with my very special co-host, Mr. Jim Alabiso. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, everybody. Okay. Doing great. Yeah.
We're gonna have another fabulous show tonight. I can feel it. It's gonna be one of those feel good stories, feel good success stories with Sharlay Smith, founder of the Lentil House. Sharlay, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, it's our pleasure. You know, I had not known about the Lentil House until Jim had brought it to my attention, and it seems like such a great story that someone has taken a passion project from their youth, and in your case, a recipe, a food product, and turned it into a successful business. Tell us a little bit about the Lentil House and the story behind it.
Oh, wow.
That's my dog. He has a question, too.
Well, let me tell you.
It happens.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, where did I begin? When I was little, my mother would make fried lentils. And it was one of those things where I was always watching her. And being, I don't know, I guess I was probably like 8 years old or something like that. And lentils are not safe to cook on the stove. But I was always one of those kids that I wanted to, I could do that too. I watched very closely how she was doing it. But if she didn't catch me trying to make them, I probably would have caught the house on fire. So anyway, she taught me how to make lentils. Seriously, because it's a mess. It's a mess. Oil should just kind of, spread. The way it is when you're frying it, the lentils are wet and you're putting them in hot oil on a gas stove. So anyway, my mother taught me how to make them. Exactly. It's a mess. It's a mess. And she didn't make it that often. What she would do is she would make huge batches of it. And then it keeps for a long time. So she had these big, huge, I don't know if you remember, you probably remember these big, huge pickle jars. So she would make enough to fill up a pickle jar. Yeah. So anyway, that's, so I learned from my mother how to make fried lentils, and the flavor that she would make all the time was turmeric. So that's the only flavor I knew. And it was my family's favorite snack. So that's where, it's my love. And I noticed that when at one point in my life, I realized that I was, when I grew up, I never saw it sold in stores. So there you have it. Jim, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muting my dogs.
Oh.
But they had a question for you. So they wanted to know, so what inspired you to start the business years ago?
Oh gosh. So
if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I could talk about it. So a lot of times, when people are going through life, they have these major life changes and they end up switching in different directions. So During the time I was a teacher in Duval County Public Schools, my family experienced an accident where my husband had passed away and all. He was active duty military. And and the whole reason I had become a teacher was because I spent a lot of time with my children. At school, I was always volunteering. I was the homeroom mother, all these different things. And at some point, I decided, how cool would it be to go to school with your kids? So, and work while they, while they're there, and you're on the same kind of schedule. So, I became I became a teacher, which is a perfect job for a military spouse. Because everywhere you go, there's a good chance you'll have a job if that's what we choose to do. And but after his untimely death, I was in the classroom and teaching wasn't the same for me anymore. There was a reason why I became a teacher and all, and now it just wasn't the same. And so we were at the end of the school year, and I made the decision that I was leaving the classroom. But then I started thinking, what am I going to do? What will be my next? And I have a lot of talents, but I wanted something that I enjoyed doing and wouldn't feel like work to me. And I've always wanted to have my own business. So I started thinking about different things. I paint, I draw. I've done, different things, but I guess the idea came to me when I was thinking about what do I enjoy doing? And the craziest thing was I enjoy making lentils. And my friends and my family love my lentils. So a lot of people would say it's not a good idea if your family tells you that whatever you do is great. They could be lying
Yeah.
to you.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
They're not helping you, okay?
Right, right.
So, but interesting enough, that day that I had made the decision, at the end of the school year, we had a teacher potluck, and what I brought was flavored fried lentils. And initially during lunchtime, I had the last lunch. So I was doing something and I was passing through and I saw my big huge bowl of lentils still there. Nobody knew what they were, and then someone asked about it, and one of my fellow teachers said, "I think Sharlay brought those in here." And we were like, "Hey, Sharlay, what is this?" I said, "Oh, it's fried lentils." And you're like, "Fried lentils?" And but I was kind of sad because when I walked through there, nobody had touched them. But by the time the end of the day, I'm thinking I'm coming back, and I'm taking this big huge bowl of lentils back with me. And I went in there, it was empty. So that was definitely a confirmation to me that I got something there. And so the whole that day was actually the day that I discovered I had a business idea all along. So that's where the idea came from. And
Now, I remember I don't know exactly when you started, but I remember in the early days you started selling the lentils at Riverside Arts Market, right?
yeah, well,
Was that where there was?
my first time,
Yeah.
my very first time selling my lentils was after I had taken a class at Duval Extension office in Jacksonville. and it was what was it? It was the home cottage food business. So I didn't know anything about it. I actually, when I signed up for the class originally, I was doing it to help a friend whose son had his underground bakery. So, but I took the class. They asked me, I already had the idea, but I hadn't done anything with it just yet. And they were asking me if I had an idea, and I was like, nah, I'm thinking about it. But I took the class, and before, towards the end of the class, I realized, hey, I can actually do this business. I didn't have to have everything in place all at one time, but it could be a cottage business. So, um, I guess like our graduation day, we had, we were bringing out products in, and I brought mine, and they loved, my classmates enjoyed my lentils. And we also had a speaker. I don't know if it was the same day, but we had a speaker who was came to speak for us. I believe he may have been like an alumni. He was there, the owner of Down to Earth Farms in Jacksonville had spoken to us, and I'm sorry, I can't even remember his name right now. I was looking at
Oh,
his
that's
ear.
okay.
But so anyway, Down to Earth Farms. I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to have tour de farms. I wish Jacksonville would bring that back. I thought it was so cool to feature the farm, the different farms in Jacksonville and around the area.
Yeah.
So he invited me to come and display my product. And at that time, I didn't have a label. I hadn't worked all that stuff out. And I told him it's an idea and all. So, but he was like, "Do you think you can have some product in about 2 weeks?" And I was like, "I'll have to see." So, but he was excited about it, and it was funny. He was at Riverside Arts Market, and I told him, even though you're allowing me to be a vendor at your farm, you've never tasted my product. And I want to, I want to be able to represent you well. I don't want you,
Right.
have somebody there and the product is terrible. You don't like it at all. So so I dropped some off, and I called the farm a couple days later, and somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, you're the lentil lady? I love your lentils." And they were talking about how Doggy was like thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is $1 million business. These are so good." So that was my first experience. After that, I wasn't even selling anything just yet. And my very first customers came from the Tour de Fawn. I got all these orders for Christmas. The Tour de Farms was in November. And then I also got an invite. I don't know if you remember this, but Space 52, because that's where Jim, is where you first met us. You met my family, my son and my daughter, because I was away. I was on vacation in Europe, walking, a 500-mile walk, and that was my very first like solid gig. There we go. Yes. That was that because my life had changed, had for a short period of time had turned upside down. And that walk, that journey was my kind of, renewal, my rebirth of, finding myself, my new normal and all that stuff. So,
And this was the end, right, of that walk.
yes, I
This
didn't
is this
quite
was like
walk
your
500
final.
miles. I actually walked like 470 miles.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah. Yes, really close. Yeah, I had to jump on a train to get to Sarria, Spain, so that I can try to make it to catch my flight, back to the US. And I got to Ferrestera. That's where I was on a cliff looking out to the Atlantic Ocean and all. But anyway,
Did you see me on the other side at the beach?
yes, I did.
I saw you waving. So
Yeah.
when
But
the,
I came
the
when I
timeline though, just like
yeah.
go ahead.
No, well,
So
when I
was
came back.
when did that happen though? Yeah.
So I registered my business in November of
Huh?
2017, and
Uh-huh.
I did the walk in May of 2018. And by the time I came back, I think I met you probably the end of June or the beginning of July. And you were already hooked on my lentils.
You
And
know what I found? I found this. So this is
oh
like
wow.
when this is the old packaging, right? And
Yes. I've
I
gone through
I took some yogurt
yeah.
and blueberries, and then I took the salties and I put it together and added so much crunch to it. That's kind of how I fell in love with them. Hey,
Yeah.
you have some like right next to you, right? So let's show the audience
Yeah.
what it looks
Oh
like
yeah.
now.
There you go.
Yeah. I I've gone
See?
I've changed my packaging. It's come a long way. I even remember one time it was fuchsia beef. So
So yeah,
yeah,
look at the difference
I
there,
know.
Tracy.
I
Yeah.
I
see that.
know.
I see
And
Yeah.
that.
my product, yeah. So it's funny, and I won. This is the first award that I won in 2019. So there we go. 2019. Um, there was a writer that was working for what is that food magazine? Edible, North Florida Edible Magazine.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
when
Yes.
I came back from Europe, my children were working at the space oh gosh, space 20
42.
22? Yeah, space
Space
42.
42 is like it's near the yellow. It was just right down from the yellow house.
Exactly. So my kids were
Right.
there. It was a new gig. I was invited to participate, but there was no way that I could do that and do the trip too. So my kids stood in for me. And not only did they meet you, Jim, but they met this food critic and who was always buying the lentils. And when I showed up, I met her for the first time, and she was like, she sent me an email just out of the blue and said, "Hey, there's this national competition that I think your product would be great, and this is the first year that they actually have a snack category." And she sent me that email, but by the time I saw the email, the deadline was like the next day that my application had to be in order to enter into that competition. So, make a long story short, I did, and a few months later I found out that I won. And I was
That's
blown
amazing.
away.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So
Isn't that wild?
That's
yeah.
So
incredible.
this was kind of what it. This was. I think this was. Was that 2019? That shot.
Okay, so the first one was 2019, and then this was my second time. Yeah, that's the first one.
Uh-huh.
And
So
then the
that was
other
the
one
second
was the
one.
second one. And um
And then this
then
is
I,
kind of what it looks like, right?
yes, yeah, I went from the brown bag to the one with the clear front, then with
Yeah.
the hot pink color one. And the only reason why I ended up changing the bag was because after the pandemic, um, one day, the ships were coming from China very slowly, and my colored bags could no longer be found anywhere and all. And they eventually showed up, but it was like months later. I had to switch gears. So I ended up changing my color, and I updated my labels and did all that to be super professional. I
Well,
and
the
now,
packet yeah, the packaging is beautiful. It really is. And your new
thank
logo
you.
is absolutely gorgeous. And how did you come up? I know, coming up through, working with working with your product. How did you come up with the name, the Lentil House?
Well, it's simple enough because I was a home cottage business, and in the house that I was living in Jacksonville, it's funny whenever I got ready to cook, I cleaned the kitchen from top to bottom and told the kids to stay out. So it would be like 3 days, no one could go into the kitchen and all, because I was cooking. That was my kitchen, my laboratory. So and I spent so much time in that house, it became the Lentil House. And that's
Well, there
actually
you go.
how, yeah, that's simple. That's how I came up with the name Lentil House, and it sounded good.
It is good.
And
It is good. And
yeah,
now
my
and now your product and now your product is available in major supermarkets, Whole Foods.
yes, yes. D-
Yeah. So tell the audience and Trace the story about how you broke Whole Foods.
how okay. So the pandemic, sometimes I guess the pandemic can be a curse or a blessing. But so after winning a couple awards with Good Food Foundation during the pandemic, when everybody was kind of closed, we I was invited to participate in a tasting that was online. So during the pandemic, I had to make all these samples and send them out all over the country to different buyers. And we literally um, you had to do a pitch online. And it was funny. They asked me, who would you like to see? What buyer would you like to see? Um, participate in the tasting. And I said Whole Foods. But but it
Well,
was
there you go.
funny.
There you go.
The gentleman that was that was representing Whole Foods, he had a poker face. He did not,
Yeah, you did had no idea. You
no,
had no idea he was Whole Foods, right?
no,
If I
I
remember
actually didn't
correctly.
even know, but it was like, because they
Yeah.
didn't introduce themselves like, I'm so and so from this place or whatever. But the gentleman that was there, I don't know how I knew he was Whole Foods, but he did not. He had a poker face. I didn't think he liked my lentils or something. Everybody else was making comments. Everybody was typing in the chat box what they thought about each other's, the different products. So, but some wrote and some didn't. They just kind of tasted. So, this was like in August, and then in January, um, I get a email from Whole Foods in Fort Lauderdale, the office there, and they were saying, we would like for you to send us some samples so we can get an idea of what your product is. It's like, that's a weird email. You know, I had to look it up to see, is this for real? So anyway, and they asked for my information, phone number and all, and I get a phone call and they're talking to me. And so they were like, can you send us, the samples? And I said, absolutely. So I sent them the samples, and we could say like maybe that was a Monday that I sent the samples there, and they probably received it on Wednesday. They call me back, say, oh, these were good. Can you pitch for us next week? So this was probably maybe a Thursday. They sent me a template for pitching, and my pitching was supposed to be like on a Monday. And um, I don't know, it was crazy because I'd never done anything like that before. So, and then they sent me a link, just like you guys sent me a link, right? To do the show.
Mhm.
They sent me a link, but it wouldn't work. So luckily I had this presentation that they had received ahead of time. And so I didn't get a chance to pitch. My PowerPoint pitched for me. And I think probably about a week later, they started asking for my labels, my my those
Your nutritional label.
the nutrition labels, my little barcode. Asked me if I had all that. Yes, I do. And they said that they were interested. And then later on, this was something that I didn't know. So they came out and started going visiting different places where I sold my product. And then the rest was history. Because, they showed up. At that time I
So how many whole
go ahead.
how many Whole Foods are you in now?
So in 2021, I launched my product in 6 stores. And then a year later was 30. And now I'm currently in 31 stores that's scheduled to be in 32. It'd be a total of 32. So that's about it.
Wow, that just must feel awesome.
Yeah, it's
And also too, y'all, if you can see that, you can get them on Amazon too,
yeah.
right? And
How about
you can
that?
also get them here at Grassroots. Are you just still doing Grassroots in
Yeah,
Riverside?
yeah, but it usually their orders come in real slow. But Grassroots in front,
Yeah,
as far as the local stores outside of Whole
St.
Foods,
Augustine. Yeah.
yeah, it is
Mhm.
Grassroots in front Porch Pickens. And I used to sell my product in oh gosh, what was it? Oh, I can't even think. Southern Filling Station. What was it?
Yeah, if they had to close because of the
Yeah,
somebody bought the property
yeah,
and they had them, and that
Yeah.
place was so good. But I saw them over there when they had because I used to go there to eat for lunch occasionally.
yeah. That
Mhm.
was one of my favorite restaurants, especially when you're,
Yeah.
It
So
was.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
it's too bad about that.
so now being in 32 Whole Foods and other markets, I'm assuming you're not cooking those lentils in that kitchen anymore.
I can't. I was. I had someone else cooking for me and all because I still have one more thing I had a bucket list. And this, starting this business was one of those things on my bucket list. I have one more thing on my bucket list that I'm doing right now, and that is I went back to school. So up
Nice.
to, yeah, I guess maybe 3 months ago, I was still coming up to Jacksonville to cook. And I couldn't do it anymore because school was, school is tough. And
Yes,
So
it
you still
is.
have your home here in Jacksonville,
yeah,
but you're going to school, but you're living at a Winter Park down there, right?
yeah. So I'm living
Yeah.
kind of out of both houses because I come up here when I come back. This is Jacksonville's my permanent address. But as a student, I'm in Winter Park. So yeah. So no, but to answer
Yeah.
your question, Tracy, no, I am not cooking. Not right now, but but it's yeah, so I have 3 employees and I have one person that's cooking for me right now, so which is a blessing because they're doing a fantastic job.
So can I ask you a question about because you had mentioned in one of your, I don't remember what it was. You mentioned in 2000, this was, I found this on your website. In 2013, Time Magazine infamously ran a story called "The Gods of Food,"
Okay.
right? So I guess what the question is going to be: do you feel like you might be one of those women that kind of opened up the doors for other women that want to be in the business? Because um, you said here that they highlighted 13 men in the industry and resulted in outrage demanding greater representation of women in the media on award and best of lists, right? Because they were basically ignored. Only men can do the kitchen,
Yeah, yeah.
right? The women were doing pastries. I mean, you said that in your thing. So do you feel like maybe you might have inspired some other women
I
to
hope.
enter the field?
I hope. I have a couple of peers that I encouraged them I had encouraged them to participate in Good Food Awards. So the owner of Backyard Buffalo and her Patel and then also uh what is it, Canales? I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but Wendy, who's the owner of that, and that's her last name, Canales, but her sauces, both of them, it was funny. I kept encouraging them, you got to do this, you got to do this. And they're like, oh, I want to learn more about Good Food Awards. And so I shared with them, and they're both out of Jacksonville or the Jacksonville area, and they won the Food Awards this year.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so
N-
two people from
Nice.
Yeah.
Jacksonville were in there, but I feel like there's so many of us. There's so many women that are in the food business, whether they're doing products like myself or chefs in and around, Jacksonville. Um, I like the fact that they support each other. For a few years, I was a member of the Women's Food Alliance, which for me was huge because I was able to surround myself with peers that could relate to the challenges that I was experiencing. So that was nice. But yeah, it's not. Um, I think there's a lot of women that are beginning to be recognized. Not that they weren't, because we've had, yeah, a handful of chefs that we've known, that were like on television, but just locally, regionally, and nationally, there's been a lot of moves in the industry to highlight women and what they bring to the table as well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of amazing how you've carved out your success over the years, because I saw a lot of it in the early days, from brown bags to clear bags. I remember coming to the kitchen one time downtown and packaging with you
Yeah.
for an hour or two at the kitchen. Just it was kind of fun to watch
Yeah.
the whole process, but it's changed so much. It's like, it's pretty inspiring. And then the other part too, is like a lot of us, probably most of us, go through adverse circumstances and then tragedy. And you took that loss of your husband and went out and found your next thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what helps us get through stuff, eh?
Yeah. Yes. And being a business owner, that is nothing to sneeze at. It's hard. The awards are
Yeah.
wonderful, but I definitely had my share of challenges. Being that I don't own my own space, I've gone from one kitchen that I was there for many years and all, because I participated in Empower Kitchen with Chris Brown, who was a chef here locally.
Chris Brown. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so she's still here. So I left from there.
Oh yeah.
She was doing some changes as well, and a company took over the kitchen that I was cooking in. And so I ended up moving. I knew a friend. I had a friend named Erica Dupree. She used to own Blue Chocolat in Springfield, and she had a friend who owned a bakery, and that's where I am currently. But there's some changes going on there, so I gotta figure out what's my next, and I'll whether to finally just purchase my own building. So I'm not moving anymore.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. Yeah.
That's a lot to consider when you're going back to school.
Yeah.
So what are you? Tell us what you're studying.
Oh,
It has nothing to do with cooking, does it?
no, but I'm hoping one day to be able to merge the two. So I'm doing integrative medicine, the traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh,
So,
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that
How do you
could
do it all? Where do you find the energy,
yeah.
Sharlay?
I know. Late nights. I'm having
Yeah.
spleen and kidney deficiency. I'm like sort of diagnosed myself. I'm up late nights studying. I don't know. Yeah, it was one of those things that I had this bucket list of all the different things that I wanted to do before I turned 60. And this was one of them. And the reason why I did the bucket list was because my late husband and I were so close to retirement. And because I was an at-home mom for about 10 years. Then I became a teacher. And then we were traveling all over the world. And I was being a very supportive wife. And he had said, so when I retire, it will be your turn. And so that I held on to that, and it was like, even though
Yeah.
You sure did, didn't you?
even though he's no
Right.
longer here,
Yeah.
it is my turn. And
Yeah.
I had listed all
Is
that
it
I
o
wanted to do. So,
That was a wonderful thing
yeah.
that was like an act of love, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is it okay if I show a picture of him? May I do that?
Oh, no.
Okay. Oh, well.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, I would never do that unless I asked you first. He's a handsome guy, though, Trish.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sharlay, I tell you, you have a very inspiring story to tell, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Jim, do
Thank
you have
you.
any closing thoughts for us?
Um,
Well, one thing is that,
uh-huh.
oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, did you ask me? Oh, okay. So, no, I was just going to say one of the things that we will probably want to post up there is that if you want to get them, obviously you can go to Whole Foods. If you're living in Riverside, you can go
Right,
to Grassroots, or you can just go to their website, which is the Lentil House, right? .com,
Yes.
right,
right?
Yes.
right.
And so the thing is that, and I'm sounding like a commercial, I know, but I just used to eat them all the time. The rosemary was my favorite for quite a long time, and the ginger, if you remember,
Yes.
right? But my closing thing is really that I'm just really watching you evolve over the years. Kind of getting to witness that. I'm just really proud of you, and you're very inspiring.
Thank you.
And it's an honor to know you.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I would like to share with everyone is that um, it doesn't matter where you are, where you start, but if you have a dream or something that you've been wanting to do, I would definitely say, don't let fear get in the way. Just to go ahead and do it. You know, um, and then do something that you love. That just like for me, it did not. Starting this business, I literally was like, I want to do something that I love, and I did it. I did it. I enjoyed every minute of it, even with the sweat and the tears. I have no regrets. I've one of the questions that someone had asked me that always stuck with me was, if your husband did not pass away, would you have done this business? And I paused, and it almost kind of made me want to cry. And I was like, no,
Sure.
I would have never done it, because, mm, you know, my life was full. I didn't have, it wasn't something that I even thought about. I would have never thought about it. But because my life had changed and I was trying to find my new normal, that's what happened. And I think it was just amazing that something as simple, and that simple skill and talent that I had, I was able to produce it and make it a business. And um and I didn't think twice about it, so I want to let other people know, if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, don't think twice about it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jim, for
So
being
glad
here
for
with me another
Yeah,
week.
thanks.
Sharlay,
Yes.
you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Well,
Thank you.
and thank you, our listeners, for tuning in or watching, whether you're going to stream it or you're watching live. Thanks for being here.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.